I will not play second fiddle to your junk. And that made me think right then. I'm like, man, what has second fiddle ever done to anybody? Welcome to the Life and Times podcast. So, how have things been going in your world? I hope your world is going well. My world is going super well. What did I do? What did I do last week in my life? Couple of things. Let's just get this right off the top. Buffalo Bills are in the AFC Championship, and they play the Chiefs Sunday. I believe at 5:45, 6 o'clock, 6:30, somewhere there. You'd have to look it up. Those were all, I was trying to go from memory, didn't remember. Yeah, the Bills. The Bills are back. It's a Super Bowl year. And for anybody that listens every week, you know that I occasionally brought the Bills up because they're number one. Everybody knows it. By the way, for anybody new listening, this is not a sports show, but Buffalo Bills are in the AFC Championship. And I know New York is going crazy. You know, they're big supporters there. And for those of you that don't actually know, ready for this, for anybody listening, Buffalo Bills is actually New York's only team. Let that one swirl around. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Let that one swirl around. That's a fact. Buffalo is the only NFL team in New York. P.S. And for anybody who's like, what? Yeah, they're in New Jersey. The two that you're trying to tell me is from New York, you know, the two that have a New York title in their name, no, they're in New Jersey. Sorry to tell you. Anyway, they're back. Couple things. And this year they're not playing second fiddle to anybody. I heard that expression earlier. I mean, I've heard it most of my life. I've never actually used it. But they're like, he's just playing second fiddle. I'm tired of playing second fiddle. That's what I heard. I was watching Hoarders. Has anybody ever saw the show Hoarders? I mean, I'm sure most people have. I've watched it before. I'm not really a big TV watcher. Like really, I'll watch movies. I will watch movies, but I don't watch TV shows ever. And my daughter, somehow, because we don't even watch TV. Like, we don't watch regular shows. Like, we really don't. Somehow she got caught up on Hoarders, and I don't know where she came up with that show idea. I have no idea. But I remember watching it when it first came out. And I had to stop watching it because it was depressing to watch. It does two things to me, that show. It's depressing to watch, and it makes me, I'm going to use this word. It's a strong word, but I'm going to use it. It's depressing to watch, and it makes me hate every person on that show. All of them. Like, they're all annoying. And the one I saw today that my daughter's like, oh, you got to watch this. And I don't even know I watched it. As a matter of fact, I really don't know I watched it. I sat down. Here I am. I'm telling you, it's Monday. I know I got to go do this, and I got to get the podcast out. And she's like, hey, watch this. Well, I thought from memory or just assumption, I guess, that the show lasted 30 minutes. Well, you know how, like, when you start the show and you're actively engaged in the show. So it's rolling. For all I know, it's going to end in 10 minutes. So I watched 10 more minutes. And then somewhere in there, I assume it's not a 30-minute show. Probably lasts an hour. But if it's a TV show, there's commercials. So maybe, it lasts 52 minutes, something like that, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'm watching further in the show, but now I'm like invested in the show, and I've already watched like 52 minutes of the show. I already know I'm not getting those 52 minutes of my life back. Like, I already know it, but I'm already committed, and I'm like, how? And then it hits me. I'm like, hey, how long is this show? Click the remote. Tell me, how long's the show? Yeah, that show was like an hour and 40 minutes, hour and 35 minutes, something like that. Just so if you're watching a regular TV, 25 minutes of commercials. I literally just wasted 2 hours of my life. And I don't know, because I recall watching the show one time. I do not recall it lasting that long, but do you guys, that show lasts 2 hours? It's a 2-hour show. I would suggest you don't watch the show. The show is the devil. Don't watch the show. You get caught up in it. And for an hour and a half solid, all I did was spew. I'm going to use this word. All I did was spew hate for an hour and a half at the people on the show. I mean, and then you get she had 3 daughters. And one, of course, and 2 are depressed because they're hoarders. Something's got to be wrong with you for your house to be like that. But so the mom's crazy. She lives with her boyfriend, who's just had enough. When the cameras show up, he's had enough of it. And so they got 3 daughters, and 2 are crazy. One's a former drug addict. Got her daughter taken away. Her older sister's taking care of the daughter. The older sister, who has her life together, you can't see this on YouTube, but these are quotation fingers. The oldest daughter has her life together because she's taking care of the crackhead's daughter. And she, by appearance purposes, looks like she does well for herself. And she's rolling in like she's Liz Taylor in 1930 or whenever Liz was really something, maybe 1950. Whenever Liz Taylor was around, looking good. And she's as crazy as they are, trying to tell them, Mom, you don't get it, Mom. Throw it away, Mom. And then she's yelling at her sisters, you don't get it either. I have control of your daughter because you're a drug addict. Oh, Mom. I mean, I hate, and now that show has made the podcast because of the amount of hate I had watching the show. I mean, like real hate. I don't know how I got roped into it. You know what? I just gave you like an 8-minute story because in the show, the boyfriend said, because I got a little sidetracked, because the boyfriend said, he's like, I just try to have a conversation with you about changing your life. And you stopped in the middle of our conversation so you could go sell something in the middle of the show while the boyfriend's talking to the crazy lady and the doctor's talking to the crazy lady about her mental health. And she gets up right in the middle of them trying to have a heart-to-heart, how they change the music for the show, and then just leaves in the middle of their talk to go sell an outboard motor for $40. And so when she comes back, he's like, you seriously left our conversation right in the middle? Is that all I mean to you? All I mean to you is $40. You couldn't even not sell your stuff for 1 second. You gotta be kidding me. Go away. Anyway, that's not, I elaborated on some of the last little bit of that part. What he said was, he's like, I will not play second fiddle to your junk. And that made me think right then. I'm like, man, what has second fiddle ever done to anybody? Like that, I guess that's the worst position to have if you're in a fiddle line, similar to a drum line. If you're in a fiddle line, I guess the second fiddle is the worst place to be. I will not play second fiddle to you. Anyway, as an interesting show, I would suggest 2 things. I would suggest you never watch the show unless you're really, really depressed. If you're a really depressed person, you should watch the show because it lets you know how good your life is. And then it's like helps with your depression in reverse. Same thing is similar to, I live near some casinos, and I don't really attend them anymore, but I've been there a lot in my life. But I do remember one thing from my casino travels, and same kind of scenario I just gave you. If you ever want to feel good about yourself, go to a casino like at midnight on a Tuesday and just walk around, and you'll suddenly have your life back. You're like, maybe I don't have it so bad. I would hate to be that person. Well, since I've brought up sports, I'm not trying to make this a sports show. Not everybody listens to sports who listens to this thing, but fantasy football I didn't address. You randomly hear me say I play that. Fantasy football this year, I was in 2 leagues. I was in first place. This is just to get it out for the people that listen who know about this fantasy football. And I was in first place in both leagues the whole year. I was the high scorer for the season. Like, it wasn't even close. I blew people out of the water. And normally I like to reward myself, but the thing is I don't get the rings. The rings don't come out until the start of next year, like when we show up for the fantasy draft. and that's when you get the ring. So I don't really have those to hold. But the thing is when you're a top-notch fantasy football player, people are always trying to contact you for knowledge. The people in my league, they're like, Lloyd, please tell me how you do it. How are you this how are you this intelligent in the world of fantasy sports? And I just got to tell you, I just got an eye for it. Just got an eye for talent. I look at the kids and I'm like, this kid's got a great future ahead of him. And that's what I do. And I've been rewarded heavily with the amount of points that I've scored. And a lot of people call me champion. And, I don't want to put anybody down. There's other people in the league out there. They try really hard. I just maybe they don't read very good or whatever, that they don't have very good comprehension skills to put together the total package teams that I have. But I haven't discussed that. It ended 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I didn't say it. So there it said, yes, I'm the best fantasy player I know. I mean, it's not even questionable. I actually sign autographs for little kids when I go to that town in Texas. It's outside of Fort Worth. When I go to that town for the fantasy draft every year, it's not even – I sign autographs for little kids. I got all this hardware on, all these rings, from previous championships, and people are like, this guy must be somebody. And now another great transition like I like to often do when I can't tie two stories together. so forgive me before I start. Do you guys ever see those videos where kids go through drive-thrus and order like milkshakes or Cokes, and then they get them and then they throw them right back in the drive-thru window? I know, like, a lot of people are like, that is rude and that's not funny. No, it's not funny. Like if you were targeting that individual on purpose because you didn't like them, you were just like bullying them. Because I don't actually like the bully thing, but when people throw that milkshake back in there or the drinks back in the window, for whatever reason, it makes me laugh every time. And had I ever thought of that as a kid, I would have done it often, just out of humor, just for me, because you don't go back. I don't know what I caused. It would be funny. Like you order, you throw it in, you and your friend drive off, and you tell that story the rest of your life. We're making memories. I like to make memories when I was a kid. Does that make me I'm not, because I'm not a bully, but does that make me a bully to think that that's funny? I wouldn't do it now that I'm older. I just wish I had done it younger. I wish I had discovered that previous, because I just really felt like that was funny. Now, anyway, I'm not trying to be the bully here because I don't feel like I am, but things like stuff like that you would do as a child that doesn't like really directly, it doesn't harm anybody really emotionally. It doesn't harm them physically. Stuff like that would always make me laugh. It maybe could harm them emotionally if like you ruin their best shirt, but if you threw it in a McDonald's window and they're wearing a McDonald's shirt, I don't think they're going to get their feelings hurt over the shirt. but I'll give you an example. When I was in college, myself and my friends would do things to people all the time. I really don't want to get into the penny locking stories, because if you don't know what it is, I felt like I started. Like we would penny lock people. It was bigger than that. I'm going to a better story, but penny lock, if you don't know what it is, you take about 10 pennies and you wrap them together with duct tape so they stay together. And then you get 2 or 3 guys and you push the top side of the door, somebody's closed door, their dorm room door, and you drop the pennies in to wedge the, when you turn the handle and the thing goes in and out, that's what allows the door to open. You put pressure on that. So when you go to turn the door handle, it won't turn. So you do it from the top side, and then you push the bottom of the door in, and then you take a little hammer and you hammer it up in there. So it has the utmost force on the lock and unlock mechanism. You turn the handle, then you get it. I don't know what it's called. But that's what you do. And then they can't get out. Well, myself and my friends, we would penny lock people, entire wings, whole wings. And then people would start calling the RA, the resident advisor. Basically, he's a student. What's funny about the RAs is when I think back about it now, being a kid, the RA was like an older guy. It's like an older guy, and they were usually like 27 years old, still living in the dorms. What a horrible life you got. He's still in college 12 years after he started, and he's bossing young kids around, telling us we got to be in by midnight or whatever RAs do. So we started penny locking him also. So when the kids would call the RA, everybody was locked in unless they had have a friend come get them out or they had to call maintenance. Right now that stuff was funny. And the funniest one was when we penny locked an entire wing. And, oh man, there's so many stories I could tell. I don't even know how to put these in order, but we penny locked an entire wing. Kids couldn't get out. And so, in the morning time, kids were jumping out of their dorm room windows just to get to class because they couldn't get out their door. And me and my friends thought that was the funniest thing ever. See, so that's what I mean. Like I'm not like trying to say that it's okay to be a bully. I'm saying things like that didn't really like physically hurt them or emotionally hurt. Were those kids emotionally hurt that they couldn't open their door? No, but it's funny to me. So those are the things I think are funny. I'll give you another example. Me and my same buddies, we'd fill 55-gallon trash drums. 55-gallon, it might have been 42. The trash cans that had the two handles on the side. So we'd fill those full of water, and then we would drag it down the dorm room, whichever person that we thought would like their floors cleaned for free. And so we would tilt the trash can on the door, wedge it in between the frame and the door, and then we'd knock on the door and we'd take off running. And when they would open the door, 50 gallons of water would rush into their floor. And I mean, it was marble floors. It wasn't like it was carpet. So we didn't like try to get people's stuff. Like we weren't trying to ruin their things, but that was it, stuff like that. And it was funny. So one day, we did this to one of our buddies and leaned it against his door. We take off running. The trash can falls in. He doesn't know who did that. He didn't see us the first time. Well, when he's sitting in his dorm room, this is like 25 years ago, in case somebody's like, trying to get me for any of these stories. So he had his dorm room open, airing it out. He had his window open. He had a fan going, trying to, dry the floor because there was a lot of water that accidentally spilled. Had he caught the trash can, it wouldn't have fell on his floor. So I had 100 pack of black cats, and I lit them and threw them in his dorm room. And he was in the corner of his room. When I threw those black cats in there, like it just wadded him up in the corner. He was standing on his bed with his leg hiked in the air, like with his hands over his face, even though I didn't throw the black cats on his bed. They were on the floor, but it scared him. And we poked our heads in to see what kind of reaction he was giving to the fireworks. And we probably should have did it to that kid. That kid was on our team, and he was a very large individual, and he tried to kick our door in for the next 30 minutes. But we knew we knew that if we opened that door, the amount of rage on the other side of that door, it probably wasn't going to work out for us, and we knew it. So, it took a couple of days. It took a couple of days for him to get over it and smile at us, but I don't think he liked it. I don't think he liked it when we did it. Now, look, that didn't hurt him emotionally. Didn't hurt him physically. I don't need any messages about I was bullying. I wasn't bullying. I wasn't a bully. And that kid could have killed me. It wasn't like I talked about something however long ago about a kid putting people in trash cans, my buddy Jeff, but that's not me. Like I didn't do that. That could psychologically hurt a kid. The whole school's watching, hurts their feelings or whatever. So that's all I meant about things that make me laugh that you probably shouldn't do as an adult, but as a kid, it was funny. It was really funny. Probably, you know what? Here it is. So there was a kid that he wanted to start a fraternity that didn't exist. One didn't exist at this school. They had a sorority, and they were like, yeah, we're going to start a fraternity. So they had these kids that were going to rush. That's the terminology to use. They were going to rush, and he was excited to get them together, and he made them all dress the same. They always dress the same. It's a nerdy deal. I'm not mouthing if you were in a fraternity. As a matter of fact, I'm an honorary fraternity member. The whole other story that's going to have to take place on another podcast, but Kappa Sigma, in case you're wondering. So here they want to do this thing that they're going to do, and I stole the list. I stole the list from the kids. So I got everybody's phone number, like their dorm room numbers, for the entire kids that were rushing into the fraternity that didn't exist yet because it was the first year. And so I called them all out one night. Called them all 1 o'clock in the morning and said, hey, meet on the tennis courts. This is at a university. Meet on the tennis courts at 2 o'clock. And make sure you wear jeans, a black shirt tucked in, and make sure you comb your hair. fix your hair. And then, I called 40 people and said, make sure you get your brothers. And that's what I was saying. I don't know if you call them brothers yet. They're still rushing. But, make sure you get your people. And some of the kids we called, they're like, what? Because I called them at 1 a.m. They're like, I'm not getting up at 2 a.m. And then I would say, do you want to be in this fraternity? They didn't know who I was. They didn't know. They were just rushing. So I said, do you want to be in this fraternity? They were like, yes. I'm like, then you will be at the tennis courts. If not, you're out. And so 40 kids, because we could see the courts, told them to meet at the tennis courts. We could see the tennis courts from our dorm room. So we told them, hey, meet at the tennis courts at 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. And school's the next day. I don't remember the day of the week, but probably Tuesday, Wednesday. It wasn't Monday. It wasn't Friday. 40 kids, all dressed alike, hanging out at the tennis court, standing there, and they just stand there, and it's 2:30, and they're like, what are we doing? 3 o'clock, what are we doing? What is this? And almost all 40 stayed till 7 in the morning when classes, you got to go to class, and they're like, dude, what's up? And then they started calling the guy who started the fraternity, and they're like, that's messed up. Why did you do that, Paul? That's real messed up what you did, making us stand out there all night. We didn't watch them all night. We had class the next day. So, we had to go to bed, but we weren't in the fraternity, so they had to wait it out. And so the fraternity guy wasn't 100% sure it was us because he doesn't know how I got the list, but he knew it was us. We just denied it until the end. And so that was it. That stuff was funny. I think they all made it. I think their sacrifice, the sacrifices they made that day, really, really made them commits. They were commits is what I say they are. So he should have signed them all up. That's how bad they wanted to be in it. They stood out there for 5 hours in the dark by themselves, staring at each other, waiting for, whatever they thought they were waiting for. Anyway, well, all right, look, it's my time. I'm going to get off here, everybody. Thank you for listening this week, Life and Times podcast. Subscribe to YouTube. Actually, subscribe to this one. Hit the subscribe button. I say it all the time, and a lot of people are like, yeah, I am subscribed, but there's a whole lot of people that aren't. And they're faithful listeners, and they don't hit the subscribe button. And then usually when I ask, they're like, I couldn't find it. so like it, share it. Cool. Love everybody. Have a good week, and put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame.